Good morning, everyone, and welcome to KETIV's Autodesk Virtual Academy. My name is Eric Paul, Marketing and Communications Coordinator here at KETIV. With me today is Jorge Fernandez, a Solutions Manager at KETIV. Today's topic is going to be creating BIM-Ready models in Inventor. If you were in yesterday, we had one that was more focused on the Revit side of what to do with BIM models, and today we're going to be talking about how to create those models in the first place. Before we get to that, though, I wanted to give you guys a special preview on something that's coming up in early December. We've got a Inventor 2018 Alpha that's going to be presented with KETIV and Lauren Welch, who is the Autodesk Inventor guy, and we're going to give you a sneak peek of it, and we want you to come check it out. We want you to provide your input, see how things are going, and if you want to be on our waiting list for this, go ahead and send an email to questions@ketiv.com, and we'll get you on the waiting list, and when we're got more information on that, we'll send you an email and get you signed up for that. So Jorge, you want to tell us about today's topic?
Sure thing. So today, as Eric said, we'll be focusing on BIM, or I should say, if you're a manufacturer trying to get your models over to an architect, for example. So some of you might have heard of this acronym BIM or BPM. BIM is Building Information Modeling. And we'll talk a little bit more about that today. We'll talk about some of the capabilities that you have inside of Inventor in order to communicate better, how you can export those, and then if you want to be that person who actually gives the file to the architect in the format that they already want, in a way where it cuts into walls and stuff like that. We'll go over that inside of Inventor as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing is BIM. As we mentioned, BIM stands for Building Information Modeling. BPM is for Building Product Manufacturer. So what BIM is really the ability to be able to say, hey, I have this model and I have information inside of it, and I want to be able to give someone else all this information so that the parameters come up, so properties come up, and scheduling as well. Scheduling, what this means is basically in manufacturing world, we're used to parts list and bill of materials. In the architectural and civil world, they have scheduling, which means it's kind of like a parts list that points out all the different components like doors, windows, those types of components, and more information like who actually built it, maybe a link to the website to that customer or that vendor. I'm sorry. A lot of times people are mandated to be BIM compliant, which simply means, hey, you need to have a building information model. Sometimes it's just simply recommended. Either way, a lot of times what happens is it'll come across as saying, hey, you need to be BIM compliant, we need a BIM model, and sometimes people will ask, well, how do I get BIM software? So there isn't a BIM software per se, like, hey, I want to buy BIM. What it is it's more of a workflow and supplying the right information to people. And that's what we're creating here, is being able to, as a manufacturer, provide the architect the type of file that they need. Now, so therefore, a manufacturer of these products are called building product manufacturers. So a lot of times if you're searching for videos, for example, and things of that nature, you'll want to type in BPM or building product manufacturer. That might bring up some more relevant information as well. The other thing to realize also is, you know, there's different levels of BIM. There's levels of detail to it, LODs. So you need to know where you are on that level, on those different categories. So like, let's say it's 100, it just simply, it really is a simple placeholder. And then go all the way to 400, where it might be someone who's actually trying to build it. So the most common ones really are 300 and 350. 300 meaning that you're probably supplying something to the full-on architect or MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractor, for example, and all they need to know is its function and the requirements, where it's actually located, so that they can connect to it if necessary, or just simply where does it take up real estate. So think of it mostly as a placeholder. The example you're seeing on these images are like a sink with no detail at all, a lighting fixture with you can't even see what type of lighting fixture it is, but it's just a placeholder so someone knows that something goes in that place. Or even an HVAC unit, same thing. Doesn't show the connections or anything, just shows where it's at. But if you're talking about a level of detail of 350, then you're talking about construction, someone who's working in construction, a contractor that's trying to install this and needs to know where exactly those connections are. You notice on the sink, for example, we actually have some poles on there. The HVAC system, we actually have in and out connections. And even the lighting, you see just a little more detail, not too much detail. And this is some of the things that we're going to talk about today, focus on the 350 part of it, and make sure that people have the actual product with the actual model number and more specifics that are going to be important to this build. Before we move on, by the way, I forgot to mention, don't forget that there is a chat window in the GoToMeeting panel in case there's any issues. And by all means, if there's any questions, feel free to ask them throughout the demonstration here today. We'll address them at the end. So let's talk about options for creating or maintaining BIM content. There's three ways that I look at this. One, you can actually build models in what the architects are using called Revit. So you can build them inside of there from scratch if you want. You can even import information like an SAT file or ASYS file. You can even hire third-party people to build these models that are native to Revit for the actual architect. Or I put use manufacturer's model. In other words, if you are the manufacturer, you can create these models yourself and have a single component that you send to an architect. Or if you want to have more of a library, a catalog, if you will, for people, let's say you're a window manufacturer and you want to have all the different sizes available to them, you can actually use BIM content on demand. This is new to 2017 R2 for Inventor, which allows you the capability to build this BIM model and then use Configurator 360 to be able to supply that to an architect or someone wanting to use your model. They choose which configuration they need, and they can get what we call an RFA model, a Revit family model for Revit. So those are the three different ways that we look at supplying this content. So being a manufacturer, I just wanted to go over the process really quick. The process is you're going to have usually a detailed model. It's going to have bolts, it's going to have all the holes, depending on what it is, right? It could be anything from a skid structure to, a lighting fixture. You're going to have a detailed model. The first thing we need to do is we need to simplify that model so that not necessarily all the voids show up, maybe not all the internals, maybe you just need the bolted locations, or maybe you just want let's say it's a lighting fixture where the actual wires are going to come from. So that's where we then start putting BIM connectors on that, so we know exactly what's going on. If it's an electrical, maybe a tray or conduit, etc., we'll be able to control that inside of Inventor. And then there's the metadata. So I started mentioning earlier having like properties, having vendor information such as the website, for example, that this model came from, so that they can have direct access to go to your spec sheet and be able to see more about this model instead of them having to guess or possibly not showing up on their schedule. Because what's going to happen is the more information you give them, the more you're able to make sure that they actually order your product. And then finally, we would save or export it into one of two formats called an RFA or a ADSK file. So those are the two things. Now, when the consumer of this uses it, an architect, for example, it's coming from a manufacturer. If we're looking at it coming from a manufacturer, like I mentioned, there's two types of files. There's a Revit family and an ADSK file. Typically, the ADSK file will be used to insert the model into this Revit program. We're going to see the Revit program, by the way, so I'm sure some of you might be wondering what that looks like or what it takes. So we'll show that. This allows you to simply insert it, put it in its place, take up the real estate, you're done. A Revit family is where you're usually going to take it into Revit and make a family out of it so you can have it maybe adapt to an actual wall, so it's not just out in space. Or maybe you want it to adapt to a table. Maybe you want it to have different options to choose from and things like that, different sizes. So that's what's going to happen in the end once you have this entire model. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and dive into the live demonstration part of this. We're going to show you first in the Inventor how we can set this up, and then we're going to show you Revit so you can see what the architect is going to do, or you can decide to do this on your own as well. Little shout out, by the way, I see that Jonathan Landeros, a good friend of mine, is on this webcast, and just wanted to say hi. All right, let's jump into Inventor. All right, inside of Inventor, I have this simple light fixture. We'll start off with something simple first that we're looking at. A lot of the details already been taken out. It's just simply an extrusion at this point, and it shows the hole for which where the electrical connections are going to go. So inside of Inventor, we have first of all a BIM tab, and so this tab allows me to do two things. One, I can check Revit features, and what this simply means is it checks with the features of how you create something in Revit so that you can translate that over there. A little later, we'll see a little bit more about, talk a little bit about parameters too. In the BIM Exchange tool, now this is going to take me into an environment. You can also access this by going to the Environments tab. In here, we're going to see all the different MEP authoring tools. So MEP meaning, again, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. And we're going to be able to say, well, hey, there's conduit, for example. If there's a conduit connector, we choose this. It allows us to choose, the area where we're deciding for this, what type of shape it is, and we can even give it the diameter. So there's a little more information to this versus just dumping I'll call it a dumb solid into a architectural's Revit model. We have the different connection types to choose from down here at the bottom as well. In this case, we're looking at an electrical connector, actually. So if we go to electrical connector, you'll see the different types that we can choose from here. It could be a communication, it could be data, it could be power balance for like a light in this case, for example, security, telephone. These are some of the predefined system types that we already have in here that are going to correlate to categories inside of Revit. UCS. This is a kind of an important part. Might seem pretty standard, basic, and simple, but it is very important. I'm realizing right now I don't have the camera on, but that's okay. Imagine this. For us in manufacturing, usually what ends up happening is we look at the Z-axis as coming out towards us. That's our front view, where X, Y is planar, and we're looking at that as our front view. In the architects and civil world, what happens is Z is actually up. Think of this as having a plan in front of you, a blueprint, putting it down on the table so that way coming up at you is the top view. So one of two things you could do for that is, one, you can create the UCS and tell it which way is actually up, or you can actually make the model where Z is up too. It's up to you completely, but for those of us that are used to Z being out towards us, we have the ability to change the UCS just for this matter. Now, if we do a check design, what check design basically tells you is a summary of the part itself, what component type you've chosen, which we'll get to in just a little more into in just a second, the dimensions, the overall dimensions, and then the different connections that are part of this electrical connector. You'll see check Revit features here again. I can then go to export building components, and this is where I can decide, first of all, is it going to be an ADSK file or an RFA file? Notice there is IFC as well. Then we're going to go to component type. The component type is where we can actually start to tell it what classification, product classification this is. This is going to be crucial so that when the scheduling comes up for the architect, your product is in the right classification so that they can go ahead and order that product, go to the website, and so forth. So you'll see some of the different ones. I won't go into all of them. Right now, in this case, we're selecting general luminaries here, non-directional, being a lighting fixture. You'll see just a little bit more about it over here. So if you prefer, you can always filter through these categories as well. Then down here at the bottom, we have the properties of the model, the metadata. We can choose the model property over here. I'm sorry, the model properties are coming from the model, but we can also type in some of this information. For example, maybe here we want to type in that it's a custom light fixture, we'll say. type in the manufacturer. And maybe we'll give it, oh, I meant to put that down here. And finally, a URL. So that, again, they can go to this. You might want to be more specific right on the URL so that it goes directly to that product. You can get more information on it. We would apply these changes. Oh, one more thing, I'm sorry. The orientation. So this is where you can tell it, go ahead and use that UCS that I created or the model origin, or we can actually use the view cube as well. So since the view cube is already here, we can actually use that as well so that we don't have to make a new UCS. And you can see, sure enough, that the Z direction is up. All right. With all that done, we have our part on the left-hand side. I can always go back to the browser over here and make sure that I've identified the things that I need to identify for this component. So we have an electrical connection here, for example. Then I can finish my BIM exchange, and I can save this out. Oops. It's export, actually. I forgot to click OK on export. Right. And we'll just type in a few things here really quick. Yeah, RFA model. Gonna go ahead and save this here. All right, now that that model, now it's actually exporting, making this RFA file that I've mentioned previously. So now what I want to jump into is show you what happens on the other side of the wall once someone actually uses it in Revit. Oh, by the way, it does create a translation report giving you some information, letting you know, hey, this part was successful, where it was saved to. If there's any failures, you would see that here. All right. Let's jump over into Revit. So inside of Revit, I want to put it in this model. If I were to just load this family as is, it would just go into space and you'd have to identify and try and find how you're going to put it in here. The easiest way for an architect to actually do that is to have it as an RFA model with actual intelligence behind it. So what this means is I'd want to, as an architect, or you, for the architect, to make their lives easier, would then go and say you want to create a brand new family. In this case here, what happens is now there's a template that you can use so that you don't have to start from scratch necessarily. You could start from scratch too. There's no problem with that. There are a lot of nice, nifty videos on YouTube to do that too. We'll go with wall-based here, so it actually attaches to a wall. Now we have the beginning of it. I'm going to go ahead into a 3D view for this actually. Rotate this around. I'll make it a little easier if I make it shaded down here at the bottom too for us. There we go. All right. Now let's insert this component. So I'm going to go to my insert tools up here at the top. I'm going to load in a family. Notice there is an import CAD too, by the way. That allows you to bring in DWG files and SAT files. Here is that file. I have a nice little shortcut for myself. Now that it's loaded up, I'll just simply actually insert it into here. So on the left-hand side here, I can go to my families, and I'll see under lighting fixtures is my wall lamp. There we go. All right, I'm going to go to these side views to get it into place now. And we'll go to a top view. Oops. And let's try that one more time. There we go. And we're going to rotate this component. Let's try that again. I'm bringing it a little bit closer here. Type in 90 here for it. There we go. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this lighting fixture over, and you'll see that it'll pick up reference planes actually for me, kind of like an Inventor actually. So I'll be able to place this right in the center of that wall. I can actually lock these down too, so I can make sure that it always stays aligned to this wall. It's going to do that anyways, but it's kind of like a constraint for those of you using Inventor, where we can actually lock this into place. Next thing I want to do is just make sure it's at the right height. Of course, we don't want it at the bottom, right? So what we can do though is we can put it right up here, put it on that wall still. Oh, we still need to do some stuff with some lighting, but here in the interest of time, we'll keep moving forward. But we can also dimension from the bottom as well and have that like kind of like as a parameter as we normally would in Inventor to make sure it always stays a specific height from the floor that we are putting this on. So we'll go ahead and save this actually as our own family now. I'll leave it in my documents for now. And now that this is saved, actually what I'll do is let me go ahead and open that project that I had open just a little while ago. 1 second. Here it is. So this is what an architect would normally look at, right? Something in Revit which allows them to do sections and elevations, being able to do, you know, all the different things that go into a building for an architect. So in here is where now they can start to bring all these different things in. So what we can do as a part of this then is to be able to put this light inside of here, right? So what I'll do is I'll go and insert, for example, actually I think we can do it over here from components. Place a component, load the family into here. I believe I put it in my documents. Sure enough, there it is. It's loading it into this project so that I can easily click it and just drag it right into here and put it right on this wall, making it really easy now for the architect to use my manufactured product. And imagine if it was a door or a window, it could actually make cutouts for them as well, so that all these light fixtures, even if I rotate it, will be in the right location on that wall attached to it. If it had dimensions to the bottom of it, as was mentioned earlier, it would be in the right location. So this is just one small example, right? But it could be so many more things. It could be, you know, skid structures, you know, where there's piping going in and out. As a matter of fact, we even have a session tomorrow, a webinar where we're going to discuss how you can build frames and even do analysis and cut lists from that. But from here, you know, an architect can very easily get to this now, be able to reuse all your information. So in summary, you know, there's building information modeling. BIM is a term that you might commonly use or hear out there, and as manufacturers, we're known as building product manufacturers in that realm. You know that. And for you to be able to have the architect reuse your model, you know, there's a couple of different ways where you can actually give them this RFA model, or then they have to set up, or you can go to the full length and get Revit, for example, and have that be an intelligent model that they can completely reuse. And so we as manufacturing just simply need to make sure that we simplify this model, because we don't want them to have something that's really heavy that they're not going to want to use anymore just because it's taking too long to start using. So as recommended next steps, I would strongly encourage you to you know, start using it if this is a need for you, of course. There are some great videos. We actually have some of our own. There's an AEC Exchange, Inventor, and Revit working together. This is something that we've actually done, and actually my colleague that I've worked with before, Jonathan, that I gave a shout out to earlier, made this video for us, so that's kind of nice. Yeah. And then there's a brand new one, Inventor 2017 BIM Content on Demand. This is an R2 release. This is a great video to be able to demonstrate to you what those capabilities are if you're using iLogic or want to continue or start to use iLogic to make configurable designs like that. We do offer tailored training on this, by the way, where we actually show you how to use these BIM workflows and how you can do this on your own. But don't forget, third-party people do this as well. We have some connections to some people that do this type of work also. Today, we had this. Thank you for joining us today on this AVA session. Tomorrow we do have one on skid-based designs. So it kind of ties into this a little bit because a lot of times people who are doing skid-based designs need to go into architectural drawing. So we'll go into how to do that from scratch, making your own frame, doing an analysis, and doing documentation on that as well.
And if you're interested in tomorrow's event, we sent a link to that in the chat, so take a look at that. And if you're subscribed to AVA, you'll still need to sign up for this one as well. Being subscribed to AVA doesn't automatically put you in there. So if you're interested, look for that link. Yeah.
One last thing I wanted to mention, I came across this morning and I thought it was great to show you. At KETIV, we see ourselves as leaders, as trying to give you as much information as we can so that you can get your job done faster and better. I noticed this today on my Facebook feed, actually, Autodesk Design Academy, much like the Autodesk Virtual Academy, I would say. What this is videos from Autodesk on some simple topics, I would say. You'll see some stuff here that I think if you have a new user come on board, you might want to have them look through some of these videos. You'll notice there will be beginning, intermediate, and advanced. So the website to this is actually, bring that up here in just a moment, actually.
I think there's some great resources on here. It's not quite as personalized. You can't ask the same questions like you can here on AVA, but it's got a whole lot of stuff on demand for you guys to look at to drill into what you're looking for.
Right. What you'll find is if you do go to that website, it's academy.autodesk.com, and then in there you'll want to click on Product How To, which you see here on the right, and that'll get you to all the different things. There's actually AutoCAD, 3ds Max, Inventor, Revit, just to name a few. So some of those are on there. Another great learning tool for you. I hope some of you use this, and by all means, give us some feedback. Let us know if you found something that's good for you, and we can share that with the rest of the community here as well.
All right, so I think we'll move into the question and answer portion now. Bring up these questions.
Yeah, let me bring up the questions here.
So we've got one question. I've got Product Design Suite. Is Revit part of that, or how do I get Revit?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. The Product Design Suite and the Product Design Collection do not come with Revit. So for those of you that do product design or manufacturers and would like to do this for customers, you would have to either go and get the AEC suite, or you could just purchase Revit only if you wanted to. And you'd be able to completely create a model that they'd be able to reuse so that they have no trouble doing that.
Okay. And for people who are on maintenance, you might still have a suite, but if you're buying new, collections is what suites are now, and so that'd be the AEC collection.
AEC collection or just Revit, that's correct, yeah.
Okay.
I see another one here on can we use this with SolidWorks? I'm assuming what they mean is, can the SolidWorks model be put into Revit? You can export from SolidWorks over into something like Revit. Remember, SAT is another format that you can use. But also, what we've seen some people do is they'll take a SolidWorks model and actually put it in Inventor so they can prep it more, simplify. And there are some simplifying tools that we didn't get a chance to go over today. But if you want to know more on that, we can definitely send you some links. We have some stuff I think that you'll find interesting that will allow you to simplify and export these models for architects as well.
All right, sounds good. Well, I think that's all the questions we have here. Everyone, remember, if you're interested in that Inventor preview, give us an email to questions@ketiv.com. If you want to know more about the simplification stuff, send us another email at questions@ketiv.com. We'll get you that info. And that skid design seminar, webinar tomorrow, take a look at that in your chat box if you're wanting to register for that. I think that does it for us today.
That's it.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you.